Hey guys, I hope this video finds you well. This week I want to start off with a question. Think when you were a child. Think back to when you were really young. Was there a time when you thought you knew everything there was to know about something, and then later you grew up to realize you didn't know much about it at all? Was there a time when you were really young and you thought you knew everything about something, and then you grew up and realized, man, I didn't know much at all? For me, the first thing that comes to mind is sleep. When I was really young, my parents gave me a time that I had to wait to wake up to. I couldn't wake up till 7:30 every day. Couldn't wake up before 7:30, and I was bummed out about that. To me, I thought sleep was a buzzkill. I thought, man, life is so much fun. Why would I want to sleep? Sleep is so boring. Sleep is something that takes away from the fun of life. I hated to go to bed at night. I hated waking up. I wanted to wake up earlier so I could have the fun start. Fast forward a couple years when I was a teenager, and I realized, wow, sleep is great. Right? In my teenage years, I would sometimes sleep 10, 11 hours. I would look forward to the weekends when I could sleep in and I wouldn't have to wake up early for school. Fast forward a couple years, even still, till today, and man, I look back on my teenage years when I slept 10, 11 hours, and I can't fathom doing that now. The idea of sleeping 10, 11 hours makes me groggy, and I can't do that. My idea of what is healthy sleep has changed. Maybe you can think of something in your life where your idea of that thing has drastically changed. I think that today's lesson is similar to that. Last week, we talked about biblical community. We started a series, and I talked about how God calls us as Christians to live life together. We're supposed to live life as a group, and he sent his son Jesus to give an example for us for how we are supposed to live together. And today I want us to talk about loving within, loving each other. In this topic, much like me and my 5-year-old idea of sleep, we can think we have this down. We've been told we're supposed to love each other so much that this is something we easily can think, man, I already got this. I already have this figured out. Maybe your first memory of when someone told you to love each other was in preschool, when you were told to share your toys with your classmate Timmy or with Sarah, right? Share your blocks with Timmy and Sarah. Or maybe it was your parents telling you to give your brother a turn playing video games or using the computer. But regardless, we've been told our entire life, look, love each other. And so naturally, we think we're good at it. We know we're supposed to be kind to each other. But the truth is that loving each other as God commands us to is much more complicated, and actually we're really bad at it. Jesus, while on earth, said that Christians are to be known for their love for each other. And if you look today, what are Christians known for? They're known for starting arguments. They're known for being judgmental. We're not known for loving each other. Loving each other is so much more than just superficially being kind. It's deep sacrifice for each other, and we're not good at it, and we're not known for it. And so with that in mind, that's why today I want us to talk about loving within, loving each other, how that idea is hard to execute, and what does that look like in a way that is maybe not as simple as, hey, just be kind to each other. So if you will, turn with me in your Bibles to John chapter 13. John chapter 13. Go ahead and turn on there. I'll give you a half second while you get there. John chapter 13. We were just here just a few weeks ago for Easter, and it came to my mind as I was preparing for today's message, and I thought, I think it's worth us diving a little deeper. I think revisiting this and diving in deeper would be good for us. So, if you will, starting in verse 2, John chapter 13, starting in verse 2. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that he had come from God and he was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You do not realize what I am doing, but later you will understand." Skip down to verse 13. Jesus says this, "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you should also wash each other's feet. I have set for you an example that you should do as I have done for you." What's happening here? Very simply, Jesus and his disciples are having dinner. They are eating together. And back then, there were no tables and chairs. They didn't sit down at tables and chairs. In fact, they lied down. They lied on their side. And this would mean that oftentimes, if you were eating with other people's feet would be in your face. And so, while eating, you didn't want someone's dirty foot in your face. How disgusting would that be, right? I don't want toe jam with my steak, right? We don't want to be around dirty feet. And so they washed people's feet to make sure that eating was a more enjoyable experience, right? That makes sense to us. And normally it was the job of the servant. The servant was supposed to wash everyone's feet. But if a servant wasn't there or didn't exist in this group, it was the least important person that was supposed to wash the feet of the entire party. So if it was a family, the youngest would maybe wash the feet, or maybe if it was like a social gathering, the person who had the least amount of wealth and was the least respectable would wash people's feet, something like that. And what normally should have happened in this circumstance is that one of the disciples should have washed everybody's feet. There wasn't a servant there. One of the disciples should have done it. And surely all of the disciples would have been willing to wash Jesus' feet. But they probably didn't want to wash each other's feet. And here's why. If they washed each other's feet, they were admitting that they were less important than each other. The person who went and said, "All right, I'll wash everyone's feet to make sure that we have a good meal," they were admitting they were the least important. And no one wanted to do that. Think about us in our life. How often do we miss opportunities to love others because we're so focused on ourselves? We're so focused on how important we are that we miss an opportunity to take care of someone else. When you're in line, perhaps at a fast food store or a grocery store, how often do you get frustrated with how long things are taking because you have something important to do? You're focused on yourself, not on the other people in front of you, or you're focused on yourself. We need to be less focused on our own importance and look for opportunities to show other people they are actually what's important. And that's what Jesus here does, and that's what leads me to my first point. We need to look for opportunities. Look for opportunities to love each other. The first step of loving people is to look for opportunities. They are all around you. You probably have heard it said that people are suffering and are in pain all around you, and that is so true. Life is hard. It is difficult. And you never know what someone is going through. But if you pay attention, you can sometimes see signs. You can see someone on the cusp of crying, and you can give them a hug. You can see someone maybe a little more down than usual, and you can give them a word of encouragement. You can see that someone's had a hard week and you can send them a small gift. You can see that one of your friends is struggling and you can spend time with them. If you pay attention, you will see that there are opportunities all around us to love people. And that's what Jesus did. Jesus saw that there was an opportunity to serve his disciples, and he took it. We as Christians need to take our eyes off ourselves and look to others, look for opportunities to give and love. You can do this at your own home, right? I'm sure you know your family really well by now. Probably because of quarantine, you feel like you know them better than you should, right? What an opportunity to love them. If your dad's had a hard week, give him a few hugs. If your mom has just been having a difficult time, give her a word of encouragement. If your sister or brother is struggling, maybe help them clean the room. Tell them you love them. You can love your siblings. You just need to look for opportunities to do it. Look for opportunities to care. We as Christians should be known for caring. We should be the first ones to show up when an opportunity arises. And this leads me to my second point, and the second and final thing that I think we should learn from Jesus in this passage. Jesus was sacrificial. We need to be sacrificial. Jesus was the only person in this story who should not have been washing others' feet. He was too important. Everyone was in the room to hear from Jesus. And yet, the most important person in the room was the person doing the disgusting job of a servant, washing people's feet. See, Jesus knew that sometimes loving people costs us something. If all we ever do is love and care for people when it's easy, that's not love at all. You're just doing what's convenient. True biblical love, true love of a community, is giving of yourself. True love costs things. Sometimes it costs cheap things like your time or like a little bit of energy. Other times it costs more. Maybe you have to actually use money to love somebody. Maybe other times you have to give a significant amount of effort and it leaves you drained. Jesus knew this. He ultimately would love us in a way that cost him everything. He gave us himself, his own life. We as Christians say, look, we have been loved by Jesus so much so that we want to love others in crazy sacrificial ways, even if it sometimes costs us a lot. How are you supposed to love? Is your love shallow and you only do it when it's convenient? Does your love cost you something? Because it should. It should be something that you are giving of yourself and you feel that you are sacrificing. True biblical community is when we all are giving to each other. And when we do that, when we are all giving to each other, we all find ourselves not in need. When we're all giving love to each other, whether that's emotional, whether that's physical, we're giving, we're giving financial stuff, no matter how you define this term love, right? When we are all giving to each other, no one goes without. It's like a well-tuned, colony of bees, all working to serve each other like a well-run machine. That's what the church is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a community that is all focused on caring for each other, and everyone's cared for because everyone's focused on each other. As a youth group, that's what we should aim for. What would it look like if someone who came to Fork Baptist Youth said, wow, they love each other really well. They care for each other a lot. What would that look like? What would we need to change? What would you need to change? What are ways that you need to give of yourself to love others. It's my prayer that you would think through that and consider that. God, thank you so much for today. Thank you for your call to us to live in biblical community. Pray that we would trust in you, that we would learn from your example, that we would love radically. Just a quick reminder, tomorrow we are having our Zoom meeting, and so that's going to be a ton of fun, just kind of hanging out again with each other, so make sure you don't miss that. Also, Sunday, we're going to be doing, of course, our regular service, and then also tomorrow, we are doing a prayer meeting. Tomorrow is the National Day of Prayer, so make sure you check that out. Until I see you guys, stay well, stay safe, and I'm praying for you. Thanks.